Uh, so this will be going to Goa shortly. We will build a kit based on the Oxi Kit that we receive over there. That's one. I think we have most of the sourcing hammered out. Uh, in terms of finding multiple sources in different cities. So the bomb list is quite active and populated now. There are different sheets for Hyderabad, Delhi, I think Bombay, Bangalore, and stuff like that. So people are adding their.
Hello. What's going on?
Is here's the bomb, and if you look at the list, we have Bangalore, Chennai, Delhi, Hyderabad, and the first one I think I should just rename it to Goa. So that's the ones we have. Someone commented that Delhi one needs updating. So all of you guys in Delhi, I think you can kind of see how to get that sorted out and done. See, Bangalore has pricing and stuff. Same on Chennai. They put some nice pictures, so you know what you're going to be looking for. Same with Delhi, there's pricing and so on. So check this out if you want to figure out how much it's going to cost you to build uh, the Oxikit. Finally, there is. Okay. You should go to, for those who are comfortable using GitHub, on GitHub, we set up a repository called M19 Oxikit. This is independent of the main Oxikit repo because we want to add things a bit differently here, slightly more organized. So we haven't really added much yet, but it will be done within the next couple of days, and as we kind of flesh things out. Uh, this as a separate electronics group. So I've kind of formed a separate electronics group where we are doing three, let's say, challenges to take care of. Number one is if you look at, let me show you, Oxikit, it's the brain wiring. Brain workflow. So a couple of people who have tried to build their own Oxikits have had some mishaps where things got miswired and their boards kind of blew up and stuff like that. And this is the main wiring diagram for the Oxikit. It's not really very intuitive. So one of the challenges we're taking up in the electronics subgroup is to start with this diagram and make a better schematic. Uh, so it's more of a documentation project in that sense. Mainly because there could be different parts that you might use. There are some folks who are okay with using 230-volt solenoids, for example, but there are others who want to use 12-volt or 24-volt DC. So the wiring changes for both those different versions. So Ashish is leading the challenge. He's going to be creating, hopefully, some kind of more legible schematics that will make it easier to, wire up an Oxikit. At the same time, I'm also trying to look at something else. All right, so this is the pneumatic diagram for the Oxikit. Essentially, how the airflow is throughout the circuit, and uh, maybe it'll be nice to have this as well as also in some kind of a CAD format, so people can play around with it and maybe change it so that they can make their changes to it and so on. Sorry, someone had a comment. No, okay. So hopefully I'll try and see if we can have that converted to a CAD format. We still don't know how we will do it, but if anyone has, let's say, insights on a nice uh, software that allows you to create pneumatic schematics, let me know. I still haven't found something that is open source and easy to use. If nothing works out, we'll use one of the traditional CAD programs like FreeCAD, for example. Oh, that's the two things, the main electrical wiring diagram and the pneumatic plumbing diagram. These are the two things we're trying to work on in the electronics group. The other thing we're trying to build is oxygen analyzer. Let me show you what. Okay. So for the analyzer, the challenge is being led by Gorbachev, but I'll be helping him design the circuit board. The plan is to make something like this, which is what is the original Oxikit oxygen analyzer. It's a kind of a standalone box that has an oxygen sensor and a display, and lets you verify how much percentage your unit is generating. So this will be useful for the different teams. I mean, you don't need one of these for each Oxikit, but it'll be nice to have one handy so you can, convince whoever you're giving the Oxikit to that it is producing the level of oxygen that it's supposed to be, which is above 92. So that's one of the original Oxikit designs. This is the other one. It's pretty straightforward. But what we're doing is taking the same kind of gas sensor and doing something like this, which the sensor is going to go to a microcontroller board. In this case, we'll mostly be using an ESP32, which is a kind of a microcontroller board that offers Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and other functionalities. So it can be used as a IoT platform. And it will have a display, so where you can show the oxygen content and stuff like that. And there is enough capacity on this microcontroller that you can add another sensor. For example, you can in future also add a digital flow sensor, so that this device becomes something like a kind of a calibration standard for your oxygen concentrators. You plug it in and you know what flow rate and oxygen content you're getting. So Gorbachev is going to wire this up and test it up and come up with some numbers. We are right now. It's important for us to know how much power this whole thing is going to consume, so we know what kind of batteries to use. So that's the kind of stuff he's going to experiment with. But once that happens, the eventual design will use a board like this, which has everything built into it. It has buttons, it has display, it has Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and stuff like that easily available. And based on our reckoning, I think we think a reasonably nice analyzer can be built for around 6,000 rupees, probably less. The ones that we've been looking at in the market cost about 25K or more. So this makes it that much more affordable. Each team can have a couple of them so that they can be used to, keep track of what your oxygen is happening. So that's the second thing happening in electronics. And the third one we plan to do is a kind of a comprehensive controller for the whole Oxikit system. So again, that will be a simplification of the wiring diagram. The purpose is to make sure that you minimize the amount of wiring you have to do, keep things simple, keep things clean, keep them safe. That's the three important parameters that we want to achieve. but we haven't yet brainstormed on it, but we will once things move in a couple of days. So these are the three separate challenges that we are doing in electronics. Uh, some more stuff for those who are interested. The Oxikit group is also collaborating with another group called the Project Apollo. For those who haven't, you can check it out. It's Project Apollo on GitHub. And what they have done is they built a nice simulator for pressure swing absorption concentration device system. And what it allows you to do is basically run the code in software. Let me see.
Hello, Jay Shatana. Hello. હા બોલો કાંતા આજે આવતીકાલે નથી જવાનું મારે હા
Anul,
Yeah.
you're the host right now, so if you can just click on this Mayuk's boss guy and mute him.
Hang on.
Yeah, there you go. Mayuk's boss, please mute yourself.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, done.
So here goes. If you run one of these, for example, single cell. Once you run this, and before you run this, actually, you have to input certain parameters into the code, which is what's the size of your sieve in terms of diameter and length, and what's your ambient temperature, and a couple of other parameters, and start kind of working through the simulation. The purpose is that it lets you fine tune the timing. That is kind of pretty important to run the system, because once the compressor goes on and you have two sieves, you pressurize one and you kind of vent the other, and then the system keeps switching back and forth between the two. That's how it works. But while that is happening, your output flow is fluctuating because it's switching back and forth. So you want to kind of optimize your timing such that enough pressure builds up, enough oxygen content in terms of concentration builds up, and then you switch over to venting, and you again switch back to pressurizing, for example. So once you do that, you end up with a bunch of optimizing outputs. You end up with a bunch of plots like this that let you figure out what's happening with your system. This is again just a simulation, but some parameters have actually been entered into it. So this one is the okay here. So here's one for pressure as it builds up, starting from time 0. So you can see it doesn't produce oxygen right away. It needs certain time to crank up to desired value. This one's velocity, pressure in the containers. Yes, velocity, pressure for the other one. So there's two containers, so it calculates for both and so on and so forth. So what this helps you to do is optimize your code based on your physical construction, rather than having to tear your hair out by playing with values in code, checking it out, and going back and forth and wasting a lot of your time doing that. So this will be pretty useful. We have a separate group on Telegram that's sort of running this. It's called the Apollo group. I have it here somewhere. I'm going crazy with these groups over here. Okay. Apollo. So the Apollo group is working on, there are a few folks in the background who are trying to, let's say, port the Apollo code to the Oxikit. because right now the Apollo simulation is working on the Apollo parameters, which is the size and the dimensions are different from Oxikit, so it doesn't really help us in much. The other thing the group is working on is to not make it so difficult that you have to punch in all of these coding style messages in command line and so on, and hopefully come up with a user interface which lets you select your different parameters and then say start simulation. And once you do this, it runs through the simulation and gives you the values which you can then plug into your code and use it. So these are the kind of things that are sort of happening uh, under the hood or in the background as we talk. There's lots of stuff happening in electronics, lots happening in simulation. I think we have a lot of stuff done in sourcing. So thanks to everyone who has pitched in on that. I think we have had some great progress in sourcing everything that was needed. What else do I have? Yeah, I think at this point, kind of that's about it. I'm still stuck in Bombay, and hopefully I can be in Goa sometime soon. And if the kits arrive from the US, then we can start building things next week. Yeah, so that's it from me.
Thank you, Noor, for all
I'm
the.
able to stop sharing, so someone can just unshare my screen.
I think you'll have to do that because you're the host now.
Uh,
From the bottom, share screen and just.
yeah, but I have a computer that kind of half broken. Half of my keys don't work, and
Make us the host again.
well, for that I have to have my
Oh.
damn thing working, right?
How are you doing all this with a broken computer? I must ask.
I have reconfigured some of the keys. So the ones that are broken, I have reconfigured the other keys that don't work. So for example, the tilde key is my R key and so on. You have no idea how I'm going on.
You sure it's not the Ubuntu?
No, of course, with an external keyboard, it works. This computer is like about 6, 7, 8 years old. Fuck.
Got to completely salute you to that one.
Yeah, if we could go back to Zoom.
Okay.
I have a bunch of questions on chat. Take them up.
Keep it blank.
That's okay, Anu. No big
It's okay. No big.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe Aman, you would like to update on the part that you guys had a call on today about the mapping the demand side?
Right. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I mean, it was very initial, I would say, that call, but yeah, I mean, and honestly, like I was saying, there's just a lot of questions that we could come up with, but let me get.
Yeah, if you could summarize the call, that'd be great to start with. I think we will do more of these calls tomorrow onwards to get a hang of all the hospital personal demands and all of that kind of stuff in that group.
Right. Sure. So I mean, like overall, yeah, I think just there are two things, right? One is like how do we collect information and like how do we validate the demand and like the general thought was, okay, there could be either we keep the source as in like the source of the demand, like we validate it right with the source. We make sure we are only getting it from like places like hospitals or only consider those demands. Like that's one way. But that and then but in case we open it up to more people, we might have to figure out how are we going to make sure that it's like genuine. So again, the thoughts were around maybe we could validate with some sort of a certified doctor, like a doctor's note or something which says that, and it's actually a need or something like that. But it was not, honestly, like not very clear how.
Perfect. That's great to start with. I think important questions. I think we can brainstorm more on this in the next couple of days. I think there are a bunch of other groups that have verified demand as well, the ones who are sort of sourcing the concentrators from China, etc. So I could also possibly give my inputs on that as I'm connected to some of them. And then we can take it from there tomorrow onwards, I think. Okay, that's awesome. Thanks. Anyone else would have an update? And Ali, you're unmute. Could you also mute yourself, possibly?
Hi, this is Bhanu. I'm in Hyderabad and I'm new to all the hardware part. I'm mostly in software. So I'm curious if you already have some contacts over here that I can use to source the parts.
So in terms of sourcing the parts, like Anurag had mentioned in the beginning of the call, we have the sourcing group, and there is also the sourcing list. The sourcing spreadsheet is completely populated with where to find what in what city. So that's completely there. You can just check out the sourcing group and you'll get that.
Okay, just a moment before, just to make sure I follow that. When you say sourcing sheet, which sheet are you referring to? Is it the bomb one?
Yeah, the bomb one.
Okay.
And in each of it should be there.
Okay, Chennai one, they don't have links anywhere. Only some of them have links.
Yeah, I'm guessing
But-
the local shops as well, yes. So maybe you can join the sourcing group if you're interested in sourcing. So on Telegram, you can check out the pinned messages. And right at the beginning, the first one has a link to all the individual groups.
Okay, I'll do
Okay,
that.
here's a suggestion, Weber. For all of the different different sheets that we have in the BOM for Hyderabad, Bangalore, for example, can we assign a key person who is in charge of that, and ask them to make sure that the sheet stays clean, because obviously important thing is to have links, and if something is bought in let's say a local shop on retail, I think that should be just mentioned as a note that, I mean, there's no online link to it, so for example.
Sure, that sounds good. I mean, we can. I can start that conversation and get somebody to.
Yeah, just get one person to be a point person on each sheet, so we know
Yeah,
who's
that's
in kind of
Does
charge.
anyone over here want to volunteer
Yeah, please raise your hands. Now's your time.
to do this?
Okay, Chennai, who's doing it?
I think we'll have to ask this to the larger group. Let's get a volunteer.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I guess everyone's not here, so let's push it there and assign.
Some people are volunteering, so that's great. So I think we can just have a quick chat on the group and then take it from there.
Yeah, Banu says is volunteering for Hyderabad. So
yeah. Okay, cool. So that's Banu. Arjun, you want to say something?
maybe add your names at the top of each sheet so we know who's the point person for that sheet. So add your name and, if you want, you can add a contact.
I was just saying what I wrote in the group, Arjun here, that there's some nice formatting in terms of the layout of the sheets done already for Chennai and Bangalore. We can sort of sync that up among other cities and clean it up.
Yes.
And that should be easy since it's all together.
Yeah, the important thing is to make sure the BOM list remains consistent for all the cities. So we know at a glance what's happening there. So again, let's push this in the sourcing sheet and see if someone can spend half an hour, 1 hour to clean it up and have it all nicely formatted.
Great.
So hi, this is Priyank. I'm working in Gujarat. I'm in Rajkot base, and I have a couple of my friends who are working in Ahmedabad. I haven't put up the BOM list on the sourcing because nobody from the Gujarat is at this point working in the sourcing group. Two things I wanted to ask. A lot of my friends have asked around, and my friends are in US, and they have read about it. One thing is concerning for them, and they questioned me, is that is lithium zeolite a necessity? because somewhere it is written that sodium zeolite may not work and may not give us the specific things which we want and which Oxi Kit promises to give us. But Oxi Kit promises to give us after using lithium zeolite. That is something I'm questioning, and I'm still searching. And I wanted to put up this question in that group.
So Priyank, let me see if I can try and answer that. Hopefully, I think I have understood this based on what discussed with Meher. So they are using sodium, but there is a slight hack to the machine that lets them kind of get more out of sodium than you normally would. And I still am not really sure how it works at a chemical or at the pneumatic level, but essentially what they have done, and if you look at the pneumatic diagram, you'll see there are 3 orifices at the outlet of the 2 tanks and at the final outlet as well. And these are nothing but a constriction in the output. When you do that, you are actually creating some kind of a back pressure that enriches the air that's already in an existing sieve. And I think that is what is causing a jump from, let's say, 91% concentration to actually 95 to 96 is what they have measured now with that hack, it seems. So actually, I mean, traditionally, you can use either lithium or sodium. It really, both of them have pretty similar performance options. A lot depends on the other parameters of these 2 elements. That is, what is the grain size, for example, and obviously also quality matters a lot.
So this is the suggestion that they've given, that if you are sourcing zeolite, then source it from 2 or 3 different places and source it very small chunks, because you may result in you may get a result that is not up to the mark with Oxi Kit. So you may have to just change the zeolite, because everything else is working fine. Simulations are also giving you perfect results, but zeolite is what keeping you back. So this is what they've suggested, and I think so that we should keep this in mind.
Yeah, I think my solution for this would be this way: is for anyone who is attempting this and trying to make, let's say, in some quantity. If you're making one, it really doesn't make sense. My solution, but otherwise, it is to get a zeolite from Oxi Kit themselves and build sieves using Oxi Kit zeolite and other sieves using your own zeolite.
So just to add here,
compare performance by swapping the 2 in your same machine and see what difference you're getting.
That's what we're planning to do as well over here. Yes, thank you, Anu.
Yep.
Anu, just to add here, we need to have a list, okay, of the different material that being used. I mean, like the zeolite, right? I mean, like I'm using a different one for sure, and Maker SLM have that X13 one ordered, and the other folks, I think they're using a different variant as well. So we need to have that list and what result they are getting. So we know, okay, which one works best overall.
Yeah, I think the bottom line here is that we need to get slightly more organized. I think in our enthusiasm, we've kind of dug straight in and dived into the deep end of the pool, which is good. But as we start actually building our stuff, and this is where the documentation part becomes very important. Keep notes, like if you have used a certain zeolite, keep a note of where you bought it from. Was it packed in a nitrogen sealed bag or in a nitrogen container, or was it kind of a open situation, in which case it won't give the kind of performance you want. So keep notes and see if you can sort of document that in some way that it benefits everyone else. I think otherwise all of our efforts are lost unless if we can do that. We go back to square one. So not just zeolite, but everything else as well.
And one more input, I had a talk with Brijesh, and one thing he also admitted that there are issues with the means maybe Maker Asylum is making from the PVC only, but there are people who will be using the RO plant ingredients and whatever maybe. So that is not working as he wanted to.
So just to add on that, okay. So the dimensions, what those guys are using, right? I mean, the code is optimized for that particular dimension. Okay. So if you're going to use any other dimension, you will not get the result as what those guys are getting. So you need to make sure the dimensions are same as what Oxikit is using if you're going to use their algorithm, because that back pressure and everything is all going to depend on the dimensions. So
Yep. Yeah, so which is why we're trying to kind of push on the simulation. Nothing much was happening, so I had to kind of force the hand on that literally by downloading the simulation, learning how the code works. And I mean, I can't code if my life depended on it. I'm a hardware guy, but I somehow managed to run a simulation, get the plots, and share it with the Apollo guys. And then they started opening up about what needs to be done, how it needs to change. And I think Meher has now uh, got someone involved in it from his side as well at Oxikit. And so I think we should see some results soon enough, but it won't happen right away. But yeah, bottom line is if you're making, and this is one of the reasons why I've been saying from the very beginning that the first kit you make sure it is an exact replica of Oxikit. And then think of what changes it, because it's very, very tempting as engineers to start improvising on the go. And it helps sometimes, but most times you will fail. So consider that Oxikit has spent about over $1 million developing this. So there's a good reason why everything is the way it is exactly. So if you want to try and think of any changes, you have to ask 10 questions about what is going to be the effect of that change, how is it going to change things, and so on. So don't take it lightly. Don't just change things because it seems so uh, let's say apparent to do so or useful to do so.
And last thing, Anul, I have requested you to add me into the electronics group because I am also developing oxygen analyzer.
Yeah, sure.
I procured the oxygen sensor K25. It will be reaching me by in 2 days. So I'm also making one over here.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. There's really not much to it.
Yeah, so I'm also making one, and I have also ordered one from my friend who is coming from US. I don't know the flights will be coming in or not. If he's coming by 12th of May. I'm not sure the flights will be landing. He has one source over there. He can bring it one from me. So I'm also ordering it from there. And
so there are, let me cut you short. So there are other options as well. K25, not the only one. There's another one called OOM102. There's a WM202 and so on.
Okay. Can you share that in the
them.
sourcing so that
we are discussing it all in the electronics group. And we have the design pretty much hammered out. It's a question of making
then we'll cut it short. Can you just add me in that group? Then I will look into it.
Once we are done with this call today, I'll add you later.
Done. That's all from my side.
Any other insights from anyone else?
So one thing to add, okay, the spring that those guys are using, right? The spring is also a key component. I mean, just to keep that in mind, because it's almost like 25 kilogram tensile strength. Okay, it's a small factor. I mean, the form factor is small, but that makes a big difference for the compression of the granules in place. So anybody building that particular dimension, you'll have to make sure the spring is a good one. Otherwise, I don't think, I mean, you will get the right compression in to be able to get the reaction going. So
yeah, the important point here is to achieve what's known as very nice compaction of the zeolite powder. It needs to be really, really well compacted, and the top and bottom have to be totally sealed. So having said that, I've seen Brijesh done some nice work. Even Maher was pretty impressed with that. Which was to use vacuum at the bottom outlet side to kind of tamp down or make the zeolite more compact, and that I think is probably worked better than what Meher was doing, which was a vibratory method. He took a concrete vibrator, put it on a tire, and put the sieve on top to shake it so the zeolite powder settles down, but that doesn't achieve the kind of compaction that the vacuum technique apparently achieves. So that's another thing that we will be trying out in Goa next week. And if you don't have a vacuum pump, you can always use a vacuum cleaner at your home. Or there are many different ways to jugaad that, so it's not very difficult. It's easier than making a shaker, uh, because that means you'll need to get some kind of a motor and put it on a platform. But vacuum is so much easier. Everyone's already got it mostly.
So I have, in fact, like placed an order for the vacuum because even I saw that video and that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, he's using a heavy duty shop vac, but that's because he probably had it. But you don't really need that. I think a regular home vacuum cleaner might possibly work just as well, I hope. Might not be as powerful, but well, at least it's a start.
Okay, I think we have a good vacuum cleaner in Goa, but still, if there are any other things that you have in mind, let me know that I should any.
Yeah. The other discussion I've seen a lot floating around in all of the different groups is based around the compressor, and there are different things to it. So we need to be aware. What the Oxi Kit system is using is a compressor without any kind of a pump, and the outlet is going directly to the system. I'm guessing with the assumption that the sieves act as a tank, but maybe who knows? I think if we add a tank compressor, things might be better. Let's say you have a 200 liters capacity compressor, and your output, your system output is 25 liters per minute of oxygen. Then you have at least a minute's worth of air left in your tank all the time. That's one. And number two, the pump will actually switch off at certain times and switch on at others based on the pressure inside the tank. And that allows the motor to cool down a little bit between cycles. So rather than having a motor that is running 24/7 continuously and then becomes like super hot, it would be nice to have a tank so that the pump has some time to shut down and cool down between cycles. We're not sure if that will work, but this is something that we need to collectively kind of brainstorm and see if it works once we start building our build. So people have been buying, looking at compressors with tank, without tank. We'll have to try both and see which one works. There's also another suggestion to add some kind of what's known as a non-return valve on the outside of on the outlet of the system, so that you can collect the oxygen into some kind of a container. So a one-way valve is like a one-way street, really. A non-return valve is like a one-way street. So oxygen can go out but can't come back in. So as the pressure builds up on the outside oxygen container, that doesn't affect the system performance. So again, this is something we have to try and see.
The
I
problem
think there's
is
a video from InvaCare on YouTube showing that in a very portable way. So if somebody wants to take a look on the engineering side,
Showing what specifically, or is it generally about?
a very portable unit that sits on top of the oxygen concentrator, so that you can fill cylinders in a very like it's
interesting. Can you drop a link in chat somewhere, or in one of the groups? Actually, the group will be better because these chats, I'm not sure if we're able to access them later.
I will put this in the engineering group.
Yeah. One of the other things we were brainstorming with Meher the other day, in fact, we were up till about 3 or 4 in the morning, me and Brijesh and Meher and a couple of others, is the sieves have two cycles. There is a pressurizing and there is a venting. Now, when you vent it, you are actually releasing all of the nitrogen that it has stored in the tank, which is under pressure. So, which is why if you hear a concentrator working, you'll hear that push going on as the tanks keep opening and closing. So the idea is if we can use that nitrogen in some productive way. There are several ideas to it. One is to have it drive a venturi pump that will cool the air coming out of the compressor. The other is to actually just take that nitrogen and kind of bottle it just like the oxygen is. So we can probably use it to fill car tires, for example. Or you can just vent the nitrogen directly on top of the pump to keep the pump cool because the pump is running continuously all the time. So these are the ideas that we are brainstorming. So once again, lots of thoughts start building up, and as an engineer, it's really very tempting to start doing those changes. But I think we are going to just stick to the plan, build the Oxikit as it is, without deviation, and then start thinking, okay, now how do we make it? How do we do the jugaad now to make this Indian? Because there is a lot of unnecessary expense in it, which can definitely be avoided to make it cheap.
Also, if one watches the video, I think the nitrogen venting, the sound, like the loudness of it, is in itself a bit staggering. So if something
Yep.
can be done about that and have it diverted somewhere else, that will also reduce the noise levels.
Yeah, so pneumatics have some kind of sound reducing outlets. I think they basically are some kind of a micro porous brass sort of a thingy that I've seen. I don't remember what the exact name is, but
Yeah, you can get it. It's, I think, silence or something like that.
yeah, silencer, exactly. That's the word I was looking for. So there are silencers available, but they also act as some kind of restriction in the sense that it's not like totally open to atmosphere. So it might not vent all the nitrogen. We have to see and check how it works. But well, sound is the least of your worry when you're trying to save a life. And if it does that, well, I think they have to put up with the sound. Simple as that.
Of course.
If we use
Yeah.
the nitrogen, but then it reduces the performance, that won't help either. Is this going to be built into the simulator?
What's going to be built into the simulator?
The nitrogen. So if we use the nitrogen in any way, that like maybe put some
So
back
if
pressure
if
on.
the nitrogen is being released without adding any back pressure to the system, then it doesn't affect your simulation. So
Right.
let's say you're just blowing it over the compressor to keep it
Right.
cool. That's fine. I mean, that doesn't really affect. Or there could be some effect if you're trying to run a Venturi pump that does cooling for your air, because there is some back pressure in that case. So we may have to make some changes in simulation on that. The way I see it, if anyone is trying to do this in like say quantities, like you want to make lots and lots of these concentrators, then you'll have to build one master system that has a lot of sensors built into it at every stage, and you are using some really pro level stuff like proportional valves, which you are controlling through some PID algorithms to exactly turn a knob to see where it achieves optimum performance and so on. But that's really a long shot at this time. I mean, it's more of a long development goal, which I don't think we should worry about right now.
Yeah.
Just for my curiosity, like when do we expect the first unit to be ready, like the original version, and where?
Weber, where are we with the shipping?
I just followed up with him once again. He's been talking to somebody, Maher, to people at DHL.
Okay.
Not sure where we are with the shipping.
Okay. I think Brijesh has been able to demonstrate something. I think he has also ordered one original Oxikit system. I think, I'm not sure. I don't know if he's here on the call today.
So what was that pic that Weber had shared? Like, was that the kit you guys received, or like?
Oh, those are all the
I'm
parts.
sorry,
Okay, so that kit is the parts that we sourced locally from a guy here near Bombay. He apparently had almost everything that is required to build an Oxikit.
Oh wow, okay, great.
So that's the local source.
So we still haven't received the US one.
No.
The US one we haven't.
Sorry, okay, got it.
But we have the exact same parts now from India. So we still stick to the same plan, use those parts to be able to create the same exact one as the guys in the United States. Stick to the same plan, but with Indian parts to start with in case the US kits get delayed, which I'm guessing is going to happen.
Yeah, yeah.
So did we get the 2 HP oil-free compressor?
Yes, we got a few of them, different kinds. We actually got 4 of them, different.
Yeah, so again, we are trying different versions. Like I think we have 1 or 2 tanked versions that we are going to try, and at least 1 or 2 tankless ones.
And what is the costing around? I also put you
20,000 ballpark figure.
Yeah. Okay.
Also, Vaibhav, any feedback on the status of the zeolite from Delhi?
No, Praveen was added. Is he here on the call right now? No.
So another guy called me today, Abhimanyu from Delhi. He said he is part of some college group or something, but he says he has every part sorted out. So any one of you in Delhi, I think just look him up on sourcing and be in touch with him. He has also been able to organize a oxygen sensor analyzer, sort of, and just about everything else, I think.
Is this sorry, Abhimanyu Malik?
I guess so. I have read so many names in the last 2 days. I don't remember the full name. Sorry, but I think, yeah, there
If you
can't be
could
too many
share this somewhere,
Abhimanyus.
that'd be great. Whoever's done this in Delhi.
Just yeah, he's on the group. Just find him on the group.
Yeah, he is there in sourcing, so just look him
Yeah,
up.
just go to the sourcing group. Yeah, it'll be easy.
What else?
So
Anyone else
one other
have?
question. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, anyone else have anything else to say? So, which you are going to do?
Okay, yeah. So I think one other clarity that would help is like, do we have groups established who are building in different cities? And if so, like, is there like a sort of single coordinator or coordinators who are actually able to drive those? Because there's a lot of chatter going on and it's hard to kind of catch up. So having that organization probably would help just to facilitate and expedite things, in my view.
Yes, we were working on that exactly today to figure out how we're going to scale this. So if you would like to join that team, you can start working on that with us. But we'll be sharing tomorrow. I think that team is going to be having the meeting around mapping and demand and looking at how we're going to be sort of supplying to this demand in a distributed manner. So we have a thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is the
Thank you.
lab and community mapping group, yes? On Telegram?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think the question was more on, who's going to build, are we building different prototypes in different cities?
Yeah, each effort is pretty much independent in that sense.
So
that's what this whole distributed thing is about.
Correct.
So can we make it little organized, as in like I'm working individually in Mumbai right now, but if I know that like other people working in Mumbai, I mean that in that way we can like coordinate better, right? I mean,
yeah, you should.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly.
So there's going to be, so we have a hub and spoke sort of a thought process on a model, which is primarily with thought that there will be a hub in every state that can act as a centralized unit to allow for sourcing of parts and then disseminating the kits out to the other individual teams. So we're working on something around that. And by tomorrow, we'll have a better update and who will act as a hub and who will act as the people who are making them and start sort of organizing that entire thought process. Yes.
This is Abi. Can you add me to that group, please? Thank you.
You can search the supply demand group. I mean, from the pinned messages, search for the supply and demand. What is it? Supply, demand, something. Yeah, supply, demand, just check. You'll figure out all the links to all the individual groups over there. Add yourself to the supply and demand group yourself.
Got it. Thanks.
Hey, sorry, what's this master group again where I can find all the groups?
Just search the pinned messages in the master group, which is the M19 Oxikit group. And under the pinned messages, you should be able to see all the individual groups. I can try and share that message on the Telegram group so you can have it up there.
Also, for anyone else who is not clued in, I just posted a link to a blog post on Hackaday. They wrote a blog post about the effort that we are running here today at this point in time. And yeah, so feel free to go through the comments being posted there by people around the world and see if there's stuff that you want to pitch in terms of commenting back or whatever. Also, what are we on today? Is 29th. On the 5th of May next week, Maher will be on Hackaday doing what we call as a hack chat. So if anyone's interested, ask me and I'll let you know what that is and how that works.
Okay. Any other updates from anyone?
Vaibhav, Anurag here.
Hey, Anurag
Yeah,
Kataria.
hi. Yeah.
Dude, you need to help get Anul out of Bombay.
So Anul.
Yeah.
So can you reapply or I would
Hang on.
suggest-
Wait a minute. Sure. What was the message? Hang on. I think I have an update.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Dipesh.
Okay.
Now the scenario is you might have to travel to Andheri East police station.
Mhm.
Catch a hold of the guy who is approving it, because it seems that across Maharashtra, all the rejections are coming within 20 minutes. I tried to do it for within state travel, but that got rejected as well.
Okay. So
Online thing is not going to work, I guess.
okay. So I show up at the local police station
Yes.
and tell them
Yes.
what?
Yeah, tell them that this is what the scenario is and this is what we want to travel for. And
Okay.
I'll share Ganesh Gavde's number with you. You can call him directly.
Okay. He is.
We spoke, I think, Anurag, on that.
Yeah.
Rich here.
Oh, hi.
I spoke to the MIDC police station, and I also got on a call with the right person who handles
Cool.
the tickets over there.
Cool.
But he said that because he is in Andheri West, he needs to reapply for Bandra West.
Oh, fuck.
So
All right.
Yeah.
so we've tried to reapply it, but the Bandra West guy is not as obviously enthused with this conversation.
Yeah.
So we're trying to figure out what to do with him.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is make another application now, and in which I'm going to add whatever info I have as a single document.
Yes, please.
And keep my fingers crossed.
And make sure that you put it as under essential services.
Yes.
Don't make it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't be as honest as you are.
Okay.
All right.
I mean, it is essential.
Thanks for putting it that way.
But it is.
I have a question in this field. So regarding suppliers and moving around right now during lockdown, is there any timeline or hope for getting essential service passes for suppliers?
So for suppliers, basically it's conviction at your end. So one of us or one of you guys can, if you have a pass, probably you'll have to do a conviction at that point of time. Like you'll have to push it through, and you'll have to use all the leverage possible for last year's efforts.
Okay.
Because this time around it's more of a decentralized kind of scenario rather than centralized.
Actually, last year too, people had to get their own, figure out their own way of getting those
that's true.
approvals locally, like Jaipur or Delhi or somewhere.
Yeah.
I think if there's anything that can be done from the asylum side, I'm sure we can.
So
I think those will all be sort of different lockdowns in different areas.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
I mean, one thing that we can do is we done last year is that we'd given a blanket kind of a letter from our end that will help from a larger perspective. So it did in most cases. So, but then we can do that this year as well, case to case basis.
We should actually reach out to that will help actually.
That's
we
what
do have a pedigree for last year, so
because I have suppliers saying to me that they can only look at their stock when they go to the shop, and that'll be hopefully Monday.
No, makes sense. No, that absolutely makes sense. We've done this last year as well. We've made a lot of shops open with this. But so if you need any help or any conversation on that, you can reach out to me separately as well.
Of course. Thank you.
I'll share the number with you all guys.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Anurag, what's the worst case scenario if Anul leaves day after and just without the permissions and he gets stopped?
If
make him talk to somebody.
I'll make sure that he crosses Goa border.
Huh?
If he reaches to Pune, then I'll make sure that he crosses Goa border.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think just keep a couple of bundle of 2,000 rupees notes. I think that should work as well. So
No, I think the Oxi Kits will work better. So just put all the Oxi Kit parts and let's put that and
show them the parts.
That this is what you're going for.
The best part would be, Richa, if we can have some photographs and the letter should contain pictorial of what we did last last year, probably showing the police receiving it from our end.
Yeah, sure. We'll figure.
Hey,
I'll
Vaibhav, Richa, Anurag, and me, can we get on the call for this later? Because then I can share what
Yeah,
I'm
good.
uploading.
All
So
right.
you guys can tell me if
Yes,
that's okay.
please. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So
Amazing.
before I upload, let's have a quick call and sort that
Yeah,
out.
yeah. Good. Yeah.
Wow, logistics is our biggest challenge over here.
Yeah. But
Okay.
anyway.
Anyways, good. Any other questions, or should we call it for tonight? Or
Also,
thoughts?
Hi.
just generally, is there anyone here who kind of needs some insight on how the system works or what it's going to look like? Then probably one of these days we can schedule that in terms of.
Yeah, I would.
Would the playlist be enough? I haven't looked through it yet.
I think what we can do is once you're here, Anul, we can create a full video of explaining how everything works, and we have the parts with us.
Okay. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and
I
we'll
think down the line, we can also make videos in different languages.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
that's part of the that's part of the to-do list anyway.
Do we have a video of the making the sieve?
It's there on YouTube. I mean, if
there
you
is one
just
on YouTube. If you go to YouTube and look at Oxi Kit, and in Oxi Kit look for the playlist, then there is one playlist that has all of the videos needed to assemble the whole Oxi Kit. So that's more or less the master instruction set.
Oh, thanks. I'll try to get that. And probably Bridget has a stock, right?
Yeah, if you look at some of our pinned messages, I think there could be a link to YouTube in that too. I think added that.
Yeah, just to add, can we have a separate group for chemistry, like somebody into chemical engineering and all those things, and we figure out how exactly in terms of chemical reaction it is working. I mean, like more in-depth knowledge and more in-depth research in that. Like, can we have that going on separately?
Yeah, sure. I mean, one of us can set it up and then keep quiet because I'm not a chemist, but it's pretty interesting because I've learned a hell of a lot of chemistry in the last 2 days.
Because we would need that information. I mean, like as we
so there's
go ahead.
a lot of other interesting stuff happening as well. For example, the chemical process is proving to be pretty doable now, it seems. Basically, if you take sodium perchlorate and add a little bit of catalyst to it, you get oxygen and some solid residue. And you can do it at home in your pressure cooker. I mean, you don't have to pressure cook it, but you just need a vessel. So someone at home who immediately needs, oxygen in a real hurry can have it. So that's kind of a jugaad approach. It's not something that is you can use in a medical situation, but surely in emergency you can use that. And sodium perchlorate is mostly laundry detergent. So can you beat that? You can just use.
Some people are also looking into doing the load analysis and sort of vibration and load study in ANSYS for the full design, full assembly. That would also be useful because I've noticed like some of the commercial oxygen concentrators, they tend to, like when you're switching them on or off, they tend to have this near resonance of behavior.
Okay.
And that would be something that we would need to avoid in our final design. So because we don't want the concentrator reach a sort of frequency where it vibrates out of control.
Got you. Resonance is an issue. True.
So one thing I noticed, keep the pipes short as possible. I saw a lot of people having longer length pipes being used. Keep it as short as possible. If you look at Oxi Kit's website, the final kit what they have and what they actually demonstrated earlier has all the connections very short. So if you keep that, make sure that you do that because that's going to help you with the making sure sustaining the pressure and also reducing all those unnecessary things. And
also less friction, less movement. It's better overall.
Yeah, and for the connectors, we have genetics and all those connectors, Aeroflex and everything. But if you can get Festo, please go.
Yeah,
Festo,
please.
it's expensive. Please get Festo.
Yes.
Because all these connectors, they just fail, and you will not know when it does that. So Festo is expensive, but you get a Festo connector if you can.
So here's the thing, in industry, if you have a centralized air system and you're losing air at these connectors, they really don't care a damn about it. But in our case, it's important to have seals where it's supposed to stay sealed. So leaking connectors are going to be a real no-no for us. So yeah, try to use the best you can.
There's already too much wastage in terms of oxygen leakage in the entire refill process.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys have been following, but Prakash Labs, where are they? Stanford, MIT, somewhere. They published a research paper on how they can save oxygen being given to COVID patients. So they're kind of synchronizing the supply of oxygen into the nasal cannula with the breathing pattern of the patient. And it's not as easy as it sounds. The tricky part is really having a very, very high speed solenoid valve. I think it took them 6-8 months to work in collaboration with Bharat Forge to make that valve. But once you have that, you need a flow sensor, you need a valve, and you need a Arduino, and then you can control the flow from the tank such that when the patient is exhaling, there is no oxygen coming, and when he's inhaling, the oxygen comes in.
That sounds like a very passive ventilator.
Not a ventilator really, but it's just kind of not venting oxygen out to air when it's not needed, because when you're exhaling, it's kind of just going out.
In terms of coordinating with your breathing cycles.
Oh yeah, of course.
Just like very passive.
Yeah. So interesting things happening. So the chemical group can kind of discuss all of this stuff, I guess. Yeah. Process and chemical. I mean, these are all of that stuff. Like the laundry detergent thing gets even better. Apparently, you can use laundry detergent, and as a catalyst, you can use potato juice. How awesome is that? If you can actually get a reaction going where you get oxygen by using laundry detergent and potato.
That is awesome.
Yeah, potato
Yeah.
juice is full of catalyst. It's an excellent anti-aging thing as well.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I've learned so much of chemistry in the last 2 days. I have never sat in chemistry class in school, but it's been amazing. So this is something that some Professor Hotha's group is doing in Pune or somewhere. If you have been on Twitter, you must have seen videos floating everywhere of that. Chemical reaction that's producing oxygen. All right, I think we've overshot our time mark anyway by quite a bit. So can we call it a wrap if everyone's done?
Yeah, I think good idea. I'll stop the recording now.